English and Swedish. Nästa programpunkt här på scenen handlar om klimaträttvisa. Klimatet kan som bekant inte vänta, och det här är ett ämne som också tangerar de andra politiska frågorna som har med global utveckling och hållbarhet att göra. Det är ett arrangemang av Jordens Vänner och Afrikagrupperna också, och vi ska få samtala med Rebeca Borges Machado som är project manager på Friends of the Earth, Jordens Vänner i Sverige. Do you want to stand here, or can we sit down and do that? Yeah. Okay, so we'll start by.
Is this video? So we can put that video and.
Okay, so while we are discussing the techniques, it's always the challenge, right, isn't it? Så går jag över till svenska och börjar på en liten introduktion av det här temat. Klimaträttvisa är ju som namnet antyder någonting som berör fler parametrar och maktnivåer än bara själva klimatet som sådant. Och det säger sig ju självt att klimatfrågan är kopplad till frågan om mänskliga rättigheter, om demokrati, om yttrandefrihet. Väldigt många av de delar av världen som kommer att beröras mest är de som släpper ut minst. Och den här analysen ger ju framförallt oss i västvärlden ett oerhört ansvar att vara förändringsagenter i den här frågan och göra stora förändringar både i hur vi har ordnat våra samhällen men också i hur vi lever våra liv. Och det är många nivåer. Det kan vara nästan lite ångestladdat att börja tänka på vad kan jag göra som individ, vad kan organisationer göra, vad kan politiken göra, vad måste hända med ekonomin och så vidare och så vidare. Men klimaträttvisa är ju då ett begrepp som på något sätt länkar in till en rörelse och en utveckling för just de demokratiska utmaningar som vi faktiskt står i just nu. Vi har ju på den här scenen pratat mycket om jämställdhet, och sexuell och reproduktiv hälsa och rättigheter är ju ett rättighetspaket som är väldigt, väldigt länkat till klimatutmaningen, då flickor och kvinnor ofta drabbas hårdast. Vi har som sagt Jordens Vänner på plats som kommer att berätta både om vad det här är, alltså det vill säga plocka isär konceptet lite grann så att vi förstår bättre vad klimaträttvisa är för någonting. Och vi kommer prata om metoder, vi kommer prata om ansvarsnivåer. Men vi vill också på det globala torget givetvis ge plats till röster från andra delar av världen. Så här på skärmen så ser vi Anabela från Justiça Ambiental, som är ett nätverk som jobbar i många delar av världen, både i Sydamerika och i södra Afrika, där vi inom Afrikagrupperna är verksamma. Och vi har fått en videohälsning från henne som vi tänkte börja med att spela upp så vi får en bra ingång i vad det är vi ska prata om.
Hi, I'm Anabela Lemoz. I'm the board director of Justiça Ambiental, Friends of the Earth Moçambique, and an environmental justice activist for many, many years. We live in a time of crisis, and the worst of all, it's climate change, because it affects everything, our food system, energy, water, and increases the intensity of natural disasters as floods, droughts, and cyclone. Moçambique, as many other countries in the Southern Hemisphere, are most affected. 3 months ago, we hit by a cyclone, idag. And many people died, and many lost their livelihoods. Under 1,000 are still suffering. And the worst of all, we didn't cause the climate change. We need to stop this craziness. We need to realize that the only solution is stop fossil fuels for our planet to survive and change the system to one that is focused on people and not profits for the greed of a few. What the northern countries need to do is to change, to stop finance projects of fossil fuels and start thinking on alternatives and renewable energy, decentralized. Also, stop bringing false solutions as an illusion for the problem, because the only solution is really to stop fossil fuels. Those processes as net zero, red, CDM are not a solution for our crisis. We need to stop, and you can do that. Let us think about the people that are losing their life, and many more would lose their life, and they'll struggle daily to find something to eat or even a place to sleep if we don't stop. Please, stop and think. Thank you.
Thank you, Anabela. And I'll also mention that we'll have this conversation as a startup to also have more questions later in the other stage over there, the pink stage, Rosa scenen, where we'll have a Q&A with politicians from Sweden on this topic. So when you hear Rebeca talk and Anabela, please save your questions and ask them to the politicians after this conversation. But Rebeca, please, could you draw the map of climate justice and sort out the concept a little bit more? What is it? What's climate justice?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes, welcome. Yes, so when we talk about climate justice, we first need to think about what is the problem and what is climate injustice, right? So what Anabela brings here is the need to think about responsibility. Those countries that have contributed the most for climate change are also nowadays the countries that have more possibility to coping with the disasters that can come from climate change, while the countries that have contributed the least to climate change are exactly the ones that can face a disaster and have enormous consequences to it. So an example of what a disaster can do, depending on the capacity of a country to respond to it, I would like to imagine an earthquake. It's not climate change, but it's a disaster, environmental disaster, happening in Japan, and how Japanese society can respond to that. And then you imagine that happening to Haiti, and how Haiti can respond to that. So when we talk about climate justice, we have 2 points. First is the countries that have contributed the most are not the ones taking the hardest from climate change. The responsibility comes with the carbon footprints. And in the case, for instance, of Mozambique, a Mozambican has the carbon footprint, which is how much Mozambique has polluted the atmosphere in history and today. So a Mozambican has a carbon footprint of 0.3 metric tons of carbon dioxide, while a Swedish citizen has 4.5. That is 15 times more. And Sweden is still good if you compare to the US, Russia, and China. So they haven't contributed to it, but they're hit very, very bad.
So the justice aspect is to add on a sort of pattern of responsibility, and that also gives the countries who has the highest emission rates a very huge responsibility, and yet we see, for instance, China and USA not stepping up and standing in the forefront of a climate revolution, more or less. But we can ask the politicians more about that later. But what solutions are there what solutions are there in this?
Yeah, so to talk about climate injustice and bring about climate justice, we have to do things and you have to stop doing things. So Anabela has been very clear when she asked for people to stop making money out of fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are bringing destruction. Let's just stop this, right? There are solutions out there. There is creativity, there is technology, there is things to be done. And then what we can do is to discuss who has access to what. So if you think that the carbon footprint is that much, it also means that we have in Sweden much more access to things and we have more possibilities. So one point is also to bring social justice to the discussion of energy, to the discussion of transportation and everything. So you can have what the social movements ask is for renewable energy, but also decentralized and democratic access to energy. And that way, countries that can still be hit by disasters, they would have much more capacity to cope with those things.
I would like to hear more about methods, because within this time and age where Greta Thunberg has called this revolution, where millions of people are out demonstrating, I heard the number around about 7 million or more last Friday, there is a lot of focus of the people saying we want to do something, what can we do? And the message from this revolution is more or less you have to listen to science, you have to inform yourself and learn more and understand the severeness of the problem. And here is a possibility for both politics and social movements and non-governmental organizations such as Jordens Vänner and Afrikagrupperna to step up to that responsibility and be informative. But it also points out a little bit of the heartache within this, because you also get the anxiety of not being citizen enough or not taking the full responsibility as an individual. Could you elaborate a little bit on that different levels of responsibility? What can I as an individual do? What can I do as a citizen? What can I do towards politics? And if I take Greta seriously and actually learn all this information that already is there within the science, how can I use that information and push forward for solutions?
Yeah. Well, we do have the individual choices that I think that Swedish society is very aware of. And I would like to bring a complexity to it that is individual choices are not enough. So just applying pressure as consumers is not enough. We are more than consumers. Our power is beyond consuming products, and that is we are citizens, and we can make impact in politics. And the reason why I say it's not enough, it's because if you consider, for instance, the choice of not flying from Gothenburg to Stockholm, it's extremely important. I'm not saying you shouldn't, I go by train. The point is, for instance, the case of Prim. Prim is this new refinery for fossil fuels that has been allowed by the Swedish government. When Prim is operating, it's going to emit so much carbon dioxide that per year it corresponds to 6 times more the domestic aviation emissions. So the individual choices, they are limited. We need to act politically. We need to have decisions that are collective and systematic. We cannot, basically be eluded by the idea that by not buying something that's going to solve the problem. We need to make pressure. And then we have Then as citizens, we make pressure to the state. As you said, we get informed and we get together with movements or organizations, and we learn that. As politicians, we need to listen to science. We need to listen to what people want. And then I would like to add a third actor, which are corporations. I mean, corporations are responsible for the profits that come from it. They decide on investment, if they're going to invest in fossil fuels or not. They lobby to make decisions happen in the political sphere. And they are just not under control. I mean, there is very little regulation to control how much response a corporation has. So I would just give I would say, at the international sphere, a last example of that, as we are running out of time. So for instance, Germany had decided to bring about new regulations on coal power plants, right, in the city of Hamburg. And so they created a law, so democracy worked very well. They were like, okay, we're gonna make this better. Then Vattenfall sued them because they were gonna lose profit if that law was implemented. Now that happened once in 2008, and now in 2012, when Germany decided to phase out nuclear energy, because after Fukushima, there were protests in the streets, the parliament decided so, and then Germany said, okay, we're going to phase out nuclear energy. Then Vattenfall sued them again, and is asking for 4.7 billion euros in compensation for losing profits out of this new law. Now, this is a system at the legal sphere, international sphere, and we have some campaigns against the power of corporations over democracy.
So to sum up, one of the immediate actions one could take as an individual is actually stop being an individual and join an organization that push for policy, and that these policies and methods for pushing could be different depending on the specific problem, but you can pinpoint specific political areas in order to make progress. And this is what we will do actually at the Rosa Scenen, because we will give an opportunity for all you in the audience to pose questions in Swedish to Swedish politicians on the topic of climate justice. So that's what we're preparing for in here. And another possibility is actually to join a campaign and sign a petition and be one of the troublemakers that pushes for policy progress. So on that note, I think we will finish this excellent conversation, and I hope you are now fueled up and super angry, and also very happy to meet with the politicians eye to eye in our Rosa Scenen just in a minute or so.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.